Just imagine this. 5,000 years ago, a farmer in Mesopotamia is sweating under the brutal heat. Or an Egyptian living beside the Nile is working beneath the desert sun. Neither of them has a bar of soap. No Dove, no Lux, no shampoo, no hand wash, no antibacterial gel. And yet, somehow, humanity survives. People build cities, raise children, create civilizations, and continue living for thousands of years. So how? If ancient people had no modern soap, shouldn't dirt, bacteria, and infections have wiped them out? The answer is much more fascinating than simply saying they were dirty. Because ancient humans did have hygiene. They just didn't have our products. And the story of how they stayed clean takes us through ancient chemistry, archaeology, religion, biology, and even the invisible ecosystem living on our skin. Let's begin with something surprising. Soap itself is not a modern invention. Archaeologists have discovered evidence from ancient Babylon dating back to around 2800 BC. The process involved mixing animal fat with ash and boiling it. Chemically, this is remarkably similar to the basic process used to make traditional soap today. Fat plus an alkaline substance creates a reaction called saponification. The result is a soap-like material. But here's the important detail. These early substances were probably used mainly for cleaning textiles and processing wool. They were not necessarily being used to wash the human body. So ancient humans may have discovered soap thousands of years ago. But bathing with soap was a completely different idea. So what did they actually use? Let's start in Mesopotamia. The Sumerians, one of the world's earliest civilizations, lived between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. They used water and alkaline substances such as sodium carbonate for cleaning. Later, mixtures involving oils, plants, and abrasive materials were also developed. From a modern chemical perspective, these mixtures make perfect sense. Oil could help loosen greasy dirt. Alkaline substances could help break down oils. And abrasive materials could physically scrub the skin. In other words, ancient people were discovering the basic principles of cleaning long before they understood chemistry. And soap may even have been discovered accidentally. Perhaps animal fat dripped into wood ash while someone was cooking. The mixture hardened. Someone noticed that it removed grease. And a new technology was born, not in a laboratory, but through observation. Now let's move to ancient Egypt. For the Egyptians, water was connected to purity, religion, and health. Bathing was not simply about removing dirt. It could also be a spiritual ritual. Priests were expected to wash frequently, and some religious traditions even required them to remove body hair. The Egyptians also had access to a naturally occurring mineral called natron. Natron contains sodium carbonate and sodium bicarbonate. It was famously used in mummification. But it could also be used as a cleaning substance. When combined with oils, it could create a paste-like mixture with some similarities to early soap. The Egyptians also used scented oils. These were not just perfumes. In the dry desert climate, oils could help protect the skin from becoming excessively dry. They also had early forms of toothbrushes and tooth cleaning powders. So although they did not have modern toothpaste, they clearly understood that teeth needed regular cleaning. Now let's travel to the Indus Valley civilization. More than 4,000 years ago, cities such as Mohenjo-Daro had something astonishing: sophisticated sanitation. The famous Great Bath was a large, carefully engineered water tank. It was designed to hold water and was made watertight. Many researchers believe it may have been used for ritual purification. But the Great Bath was only one part of a much larger system. Many homes had bathing areas. Wells were spread throughout the city. Wastewater flowed into covered brick drains. Some houses even had systems that carried water from upper floors down into street drainage. Sites such as Dalavira also contained reservoirs and advanced water management systems. At Lathau, bathing platforms were connected to drainage systems. Think about that. Thousands of years before modern sewer systems became common in many parts of the world, the Indus Valley people were already managing water, bathing, and wastewater on a large urban scale. They may not have had modern soap, but they understood something extremely important. Clean water and proper waste disposal can matter more for public health than the products you put on your skin. Now let's move to ancient Greece. The Greeks had a completely different approach to bathing. Instead of relying heavily on soap, they often used clay, sand, ash, and pumice stone to scrub the body. Then they applied olive oil to the skin. After exercising or bathing, they used a tool called a strigil. A strigil was a curved metal scraper. It was used to remove oil, sweat, dirt, and dead skin from the body. This may sound strange today, but the chemistry actually makes sense. Oil helps loosen oily dirt. Then the scraper physically removes the mixture. So instead of soap lifting dirt away, the Greeks used oil and mechanical scraping. Different method, same basic goal. And even the word hygiene comes from ancient Greek traditions. It is connected to Hygeia, the goddess associated with health and cleanliness. Now let's talk about Rome. In Roman society, bathing became an entire culture. Public bathhouses were massive complexes containing hot rooms, cold rooms, steam rooms, exercise areas, and social spaces. Romans also used oil and strigils to clean the body. But their greatest achievement may have been their water infrastructure. Aqueducts transported water across enormous distances. Sewer systems removed waste from cities. And the famous Cloaca Maxima became one of the most impressive drainage systems of the ancient world. The Romans even used chemistry in their laundry. Fullers cleaned clothing using ammonia-rich urine. It sounds disgusting, but ammonia is an effective cleaning agent that can help break down grease and stains. Once again, ancient people were using chemistry. They simply didn't have modern detergent bottles. Now let's travel to ancient China. Herbal infusions and natural ingredients played an important role in bathing and personal care. Rice water was used in traditional beauty practices. And thousands of years later, rice water is still popular in modern skincare traditions. For dental hygiene, people used chew sticks made from aromatic branches. By chewing one end, they created natural brush-like fibers. Essentially, a primitive toothbrush. In South Asia, traditional practices such as ubtan used ingredients including gram flour, turmeric, sandalwood, and other natural materials. Neem was also used in traditional hygiene practices. Many of these traditions are still alive today. Which brings us to an important point. Ancient people were not simply ignoring hygiene. They were experimenting with whatever their environment gave them. Oil, ash, clay, minerals, plants, water, and even natural abrasives. But did these methods actually work? This is where modern science becomes especially interesting. Our skin is not a sterile surface. It is home to millions of microorganisms, bacteria, fungi, and other microscopic life. Together, they form what scientists call the skin microbiome. Many of these microorganisms are harmless. Some may even help protect the skin. They interact with natural oils and dead skin cells and form part of a complex ecosystem. This means that cleaning is not always as simple as remove every microorganism. Therefore, become healthier. Harsh chemicals and excessive cleaning can sometimes disturb the natural balance of the skin. One famous example comes from Dr. and author James Hamblin. For years, he experimented with avoiding traditional soap, shampoo, conditioner, and moisturizer. He mostly rinsed with water. This was an extreme personal experiment, not proof that everyone should stop washing. But it raised an interesting question. How much cleaning does the human body actually need? Research on different populations has also shown that personal care products can change the skin microbiome. Antibacterial soaps, shampoos, and other products may alter the types and diversity of microorganisms living on the skin. Some changes can even continue after the product is no longer being used. Again, this does not mean that soap is bad. It means that the relationship between hygiene and health is more complicated than we once thought. Researchers have also studied communities living in environments with much less industrialization. Among groups such as the Yanomami of the Amazon, scientists have discovered remarkable microbial diversity. Some of the bacteria found in these environments had never previously been recorded. Research among the Hadza of Tanzania has also revealed extremely diverse microbial communities. These findings have led scientists to ask an important question. Could modern urban lifestyles be reducing the diversity of microorganisms that humans evolved alongside? The answer is still being studied. But one thing is clear. The human body has always existed in constant contact with the microbial world. Ancient humans were surrounded by soil, animals, plants, water, dust, and countless microorganisms. Their world was not sterile, and their bodies evolved within that environment. But this does not mean that ancient people were healthier than modern humans. Far from it. Ancient societies suffered from epidemics. Infant mortality was much higher, and many infections that are easily treated today could once be deadly. This is why we need balance. Modern hygiene has saved millions of lives. Clean drinking water, hand washing, sewage systems, medical sterilization, and soap have all transformed human health. In fact, hand washing with soap can dramatically reduce the spread of infectious diseases. So soap is not just a cosmetic product. It is one of the most important public health technologies in human history. But there is a difference between useful hygiene and excessive cleaning. Washing your hands after using the bathroom or before preparing food is extremely important. But constantly stripping the skin of every natural oil and microorganism may not always be necessary. And perhaps this is where ancient humans have something to teach us. They understood that hygiene was not only about the body. It was also about the environment. Clean water, safe drainage, waste management, and proper sanitation. The Indus Valley civilization understood this thousands of years ago. Rome understood it through aqueducts and sewer systems. Ancient Egypt connected water with purity. And nearly every civilization developed its own traditions surrounding bathing and cleanliness. Because bathing was not always just about removing dirt. It could be religious, social, cultural, and even political. Roman baths were places to meet friends and conduct business. Egyptian priests bathed as part of religious rituals. The Great Bath of Mohenjo-Daro may have been connected to communal purification. Cleanliness was not just a private habit. It was part of society. So how did ancient people survive without modern soap? The answer is not that they had no hygiene. They simply had a different system. They used oil and strigils, ash and clay, natron and herbs, natural abrasives, clean water, drainage systems, waste management, and a natural skin ecosystem that had evolved alongside the human body. Their system was not perfect, but it worked well enough for humanity to survive, expand, and build civilizations. And perhaps the biggest lesson is this. We often assume that ancient means primitive, and modern means superior. But history is rarely that simple. The Indus Valley developed sophisticated drainage systems thousands of years ago. Egyptians understood the cleaning properties of natural minerals. Greeks understood the power of oil and mechanical scraping. South Asian traditions developed plant-based cleansing methods that are still used today. And modern science is only beginning to understand the invisible microbial world that ancient humans lived with every day. Ancient people were not necessarily primitive. They were different. Their tools were different. Their knowledge was organized differently. But they were constantly observing, experimenting, and learning from the world around them. That is science too. So the next time you pick up a bar of soap or a bottle of body wash, remember that its story is thousands of years old. A story that begins with fat and ash in ancient Babylon, continues through Egyptian natron, Greek strigils, Roman bathhouses, Chinese herbal traditions, South Asian ubtan, and eventually leads to modern germ theory and public health. Throughout this entire journey, one thing has remained constant. Humans have always been trying to understand their bodies, protect themselves from disease, and find a balance with the environment around them. Soap is only one tool in that much larger story. The real goal has always been survival, and the story of that survival is almost as old as humanity itself. So yes, ancient people survived without modern soap. Not because bacteria did not exist, not because hygiene was unimportant, and not simply because they were dirty. They survived because humans are remarkably adaptable. They observed their environment. They discovered natural cleaning methods. They developed sanitation systems. They used chemistry without knowing the word chemistry. And they evolved alongside the invisible world of microorganisms. The next time someone says ancient people were simply dirty, remember this. They may not have had antibacterial body wash, but some of them had running water, drainage systems, public baths, natural cleansers, herbal treatments, and hygiene traditions thousands of years ahead of their time. And perhaps the most surprising thing is this. The story of soap is not really a story about cleanliness. It is a story about human curiosity. The curiosity to ask, what makes this clean? What makes us sick? What keeps the body healthy? And how can we survive in a world we do not yet fully understand? That curiosity has been with us for thousands of years, and it may be one of the oldest survival technologies humanity has ever had.